Okay, I think we are good. How's everybody doing today? It's 3 p.m. here in the UK, coming at you from sunny, not so sunny Cheshire. Who have we got here today? We have Alpha is present from the Philippines. Good afternoon or evening to you, Alpha. And Grey Elephant Club from Cleveland, Ohio is here. Jennifer is here. Eddie is here. Kathleen from New York. Good, wonderful. Okay, so we are live. Hopefully, you can see and hear me. Everything's good. If not, I'm sure someone will let me know. Today, we're going to do some live t-shirt designing. So grab your pens and paper so you can follow along with me. We're going to do some drawing. I've got my Apple Pencil. I've got my iPad. We're all good to go. Gary is here. A couple of housekeeping bits before we go into our designing. 1 second. Technical issues already. Few bits to go through. Let's go through some of these. So yes, do please like and subscribe if you are joining us for the first time. Don't forget to smash that like button, and you can sign up at michaelessek.com/live. I put my finger on it almost, and there you can get some free goodies, downloads, slides of previous sessions that we've done. So make sure you go and grab those if you haven't already. You can ask questions as we go through. Of course, as usual, I will be taking your questions as we go. And last week's winner of the book is Sebastian Garcia. If your name is Sebastian Garcia, please email me, michael@michaelessek.com, with your address. And this special glossy version of my book will be on its way to you. Who else have we got joining us now? We've got Ron in the house. Vivian from New York is here. Sheila from Ottawa, Canada. Marivi from Spain. Sue is here. Michael from Texas. Flanagan Photos from Nevada. And Uboinu from Germany is here. Amy is here from Texas. Jenny from Seattle, Sherwin from the Philippines. Wonderful. Great to have you all with us today. I hope you're going to get something out of this session. It should be fun. Yesterday, I sent out an email to my list asking if you had any ideas, concepts that you wanted me to have a swing at today. So that's what we're going to do. You may have noticed I've had my hair cut as well since last session, looking a little bit neater than I was last week. Who else have we got here? Oh, Ben. I'll just call you Ben. Great. That makes things easier. Thingy from Mars is here. Nice to have you with us from Mars. Jonah from Bali. Alpha says, will we have another book giveaway today? No, Alpha. I'm afraid I'm ceasing book giveaways for the time being because too many people are expecting me to give a book away to them and they're not buying the book, which is not the point of the exercise. But we may do some giveaways again soon, shortly. We'll maybe give away something else instead. Henry says, hi, Michael. Hank here. Nice to have you here, Hank or Henry. Project Black Orchid from Denver. Mike from Texas. Captain Crook from Singapore. And Temeshi from Poland. Heather from across the M62 in Leeds. And Barbara from New York. Okay, great. Without further ado, let's dive into it today. And what was I saying? Yeah, yesterday sent out an email, said, do you have any concepts, any ideas that we will that would be good for us to work on? So thank you to everyone who sent stuff in. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to review your ideas, and there's really only one that I've picked out to work on today. The reason for that is that I'm trying to do more of a designing session. So I asked you guys, what would you like me to do on Thursday? Most of you said you would like to see live t-shirt designing, from which I understand it. That means you want to see me actually kind of producing a design live. So drawing, designing, Photoshop, all that stuff. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're not going to do reviews. We're not going to review t-shirt designs. We're not going to review ideas. I'm just going to pick one of these ideas, one of these concepts, and I'm going to illustrate that live and turn it into a design live. Hopefully it will go okay. And that's what we're going to do. I've actually got two concepts, so hopefully we'll get to both of them. So there is going to be some illustration. I've got Procreate on my iPad going. I'm going to use that, and then we're going to bring it over into Photoshop to kind of finish it up. That's the plan, at least. But thank you to everyone who sent ideas in. Just a couple of things. one thing to mention. I don't think this was an idea, but this is something someone sent in. I believe this was from Barbara, I think. So she sent in this um, portrait she'd done of me, which is very nice. That's the first time I think anyone's done a uh, fan art fan art of me. I think she's got the likeness very well done. I have to say, I have had my haircut now, so maybe that's a little bit neater. But you definitely got the nose right. The length of the nose is very accurate. See, look at that. It's uncanny, isn't it? She's really caught me. Thank you, Barbara, for that. That was very kind, and I appreciate it. Someone said the video stopped. Eddie said the video stopped. Can anyone else confirm, or are we still good? Looks like we're good from my end. Let's just go through a few more comments here before we start designing. Thaddeus is here. Eddie, Project Black Orchid bought the book. Thank you for the poster. No problem. Carol, hi from Ireland. Ray from sunny Macclesfield. And Steve Cosney is here. Nicholas is here. Dreamers Rise is here. Alpha says nice portrait. Eddie says no good. Okay, looks like we're good. So here's Barbara. Barbara says, "You're so welcome. Glad you like it." Thank you, Barbara. I do like it. It's very nice. I don't have fan art, so I might print this one off, stick it on the wall, if you don't mind. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into the first concept here today. So this one is from, I believe he's watching here with us, Flanagan Photos, or Kirby, as he's known. So Kirby is a photographer. I think Kirby sent in an idea or a design a few weeks ago for a review, and he takes wildlife photos, very nice wildlife photos, and this is his design that he sent. So I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a little black bear, I guess. I don't know my bears, but it says barely hanging on. And since Kirby sent this in, I thought this would be a great one to tackle because, as I've said previously, photos don't really translate well to t-shirt designs. They don't really work brilliantly. There's a couple of issues for that. One is how things are printed on t-shirts. They tend not to actually, work very well. They're not very visible on a t-shirt, on fabric. You lose a lot of the detail and the subtleties of a photograph don't translate well, as you can see here, because you can barely see the bear anyway. So imagine whacking that on a t-shirt. It's going to be very hard for people to understand. What we're going to do then, we're going to take this concept, we're going to turn it into a t-shirt design that's appropriate, that's going to work for a t-shirt. So we're going to illustrate this in a cartoon way. I'm going to show you my process. And the reason I picked it is I think this is a strong pun. Barely hanging on. I think that's nice. That works well for t-shirt. It's a kind of evergreen thing that could work well. So that's what we're going to do today. So that good? Without further ado, I think I'll fire up the iPad and we'll get going. So a couple of thoughts on this one. A couple of comments coming in here. Adinul is here. Hello to you. Sarah said she loves my kids' jokes. Thank you, Sarah. Those jokes were very accurate. I asked my kids yesterday to tell me a joke, and they almost word for word told me the same jokes that they came up with the day before. So yeah, if you got that email and you know what I'm talking about, then believe me, those are verbatim the jokes my kids chose. Jones says, Sarah, I agree, very cute. Rusty says, greetings. And Alpha says, nice idea. Cool. So let's do it. So a couple of things on this. So the concept that we've got is really this pun. Obviously a play on words, barely hanging on. So that is essentially our joke. If we were to say, if for some reason we had to produce this design in 2 seconds, sometimes people do that. They do like, there's like some YouTube videos and stuff where they do like cookies in 5 minutes and then cookies in 1 hour and then cookies in 2 days and like how much better they are. Or if you try and draw Spider-Man in 10 seconds, try and draw Spider-Man in 10 minutes, try and draw Spider-Man in an hour, and you show the difference. If you apply that to t-shirts and you had to design this t-shirt in 1 minute, then what you might do is simply have text on a t-shirt. That's the most basic level. We could call that level 1. Obviously, that's not what we want to do. That's not really very funny, and it doesn't communicate much of a joke. There's no illustration, there's no graphic. So that would be maybe level one. Level two, to play on this joke, what you might do is have a really simple, let's say you have a few minutes to do it. Maybe you could draw like a bear or do like a really simple silhouette of a bear, depending on how quick you could draw a bear. And then you could put text somehow. Obviously, you would do your best to design this and have it work as a cohesive design. But this concept of using that pun and placing it with a picture of a bear transforms it into suddenly we have something that's quite a bit like, or is at least the starting elements of a decent t-shirt design. You could see how that would work. Even just a simple silhouette that tells you I'm referring to bears, putting it with this pun is going to give you a great idea. And then level three would, of course, be to try and really bring it up a little bit. So we've got barely hanging on. A picture of a bear is fine, but of course, we have got hanging on in the phrase. We've got kind of a double pun thing going on, at least. And we could do something like, some bear kind of hanging onto a branch or something like that. And tying the whole thing together a little bit better, that would be taking it up another notch. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and take it all the way up to like number 3 and work all these things together very nicely. And just a couple of things before I get into my sketching as well. So when I had the concept, I was thinking, okay, how do we illustrate a bear hanging onto a tree or something? How do we do that? So I did a few Google searches for like bear hanging on tree or bear on branch or something. And it occurred to me quite early on that instead of doing, I don't know, what would be a typical kind of black bear, which is fine, of course, quite fun to illustrate bears anyway. They're quite nice to draw. But something that might work even better would be a koala, because they are, pretty recognizable as animals. They have some features that we can really emphasize to make it very noticeable. And so I thought, well, we could do koalas. Now, koalas are not technically bears, but of course they are referred to as koala bears quite often. So I'm going to take a risk and say people who like koala bears, who might find this design funny, they're not going to be too offended that we're using the term bear when koala's not technically a bear. So that was just another consideration. So roughly my concept is this, and I've drawn it on my piece of paper here, which I don't know how well you can see, but right about here there's a sketch of, it's going to get washed out there, but there's a sketch of a koala just kind of hanging onto a tree branch. So that's my concept. It looks a little something like this. Tree branch, koala, big ears, the big nose thing, big eyes, and he's just kind of grasping on for dear life on there. So that's kind of my concept. We're going to do a sketch of this, and then we're going to do barely hanging on around that somehow. So that's the idea. Let's see how we get on. Let's do it. Let's do it live, right? Why not? No time like the present. Okay. A couple of comments here. Lance, curious how you keyword this design, just cute bear design. Well, you're going to see, Lance, already I have advanced from the broad subject of bears and narrowed ourselves down a little bit to the subject of koalas. So yes, that would be something you could do already. Koala pun design or something like that. I'm not going to be too concerned today with with tags and things like that. We're going to focus on design today. But yes, there are certainly some options there you could pursue now that we have narrowed it down a little bit more to koalas. Daniel says, thanks for your time and input. No problem. Thank you, Daniel. And Eileen says, why does Santa have a beard? Because he likes beer. My son's one and only joke, which was also very unfunny. That's not too bad. I mean, I can see kind of where he's almost a play on words there, isn't it, that he's gone for? So promising from your son, Eileen. Okay, let's do this koala sketch to the best of my ability. So I'm gonna do like a rough sketch first, and then I'm gonna do the inking, as you would call it. So I'm gonna try and I've got a canvas here on my iPad. This is a 500 by 400 pixel canvas. So what I'm going to try and do is fill this roughly, the kind of size, or at least close to the kind of size that we want. So my idea is to have kind of a tree branch here like this, maybe a bit bigger actually. And no, I'm referencing my my sketch here. And so I'm going to have a paw here, a paw there, something like that. And then his head, something like this. And two big koala ears. Those may be a little bit big. And two big koala eyes, and then his kind of koala nose. Do like a couple of little... So something like this. I don't really know how koalas' noses go. Are they like dark? Yeah, something like that. That looks good. So this is roughly based on my rough sketch. So we're close to what I have in mind. And then I'm going to have him kind of look like he's struggling a little bit. Maybe have his paw here like this. So something like that. And his other leg just kind of... So it looks like he's having a hard time hanging on, of course. He's barely hanging on. So looking at this, I think what we could do is just... If I just kind of rehash this circle a little bit, kind of reposition him within my circle, because my idea is that this this kind of tree branch is going to be the same color as the t-shirt. So we're going to have like a, the branch is going to kind of run across the center of the design. And it's going to be the same color. So if this was a red t-shirt, then all this would be red across it. I'm thinking like a navy background, and then kind of take it from there. Anyway, that's kind of my rough idea. It does look a little bit Baby Yoda-ish. It looks a bit what's the guy from Gremlins? What are the Gremlins called before they turn into Gremlins? It's a bit like that, isn't it? But I think this works. I've saved myself a few hard tasks because I've not got his face on here, so I've not got his smile. So that's going to save me some work. So that's one reason I've done this kind of tree branch across the front. Anyway, let's get to inking. And whoops, let's knock this down a little bit. And let's do some inking. I'm going to do this in black and change my pen to... Should we do a studio pen? Or I think maybe do a dry ink pen instead. Not as thick as that, not as thick as that. Maybe something like that. Okay, so let's roll with this. Gizmo, yeah, thank you, Arthur. Franicia says, nice. Maxim says, hello. Arthur says, Baby Yoda in a pram. Consoftra says, hi, Michael. I don't have an iPad, iPhone, or stylus pen enabled phone. Which free app can I use to convert my sketches into computerized sketches to fill colors? A few people have said Gizmo. So Consoftra, I used to have a scanner. I used to scan things in. So you can usually get hold of scanners very cheap these days if you don't have one already, like a physical scanner, like a printer scanner combo or something. Or I'm pretty sure there'll be apps that you can scan with a photo of your phone. So you take a photo of your sketch, and then you'll be able to bring it into Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever it is and start digitizing it that way. So I hope that helps. Okay, let's ink this fella up. So I'm going to try and keep this really simple. Obviously, I don't have a lot of time to do a lot of detail, so this is going to be a very kind of rough and ready sketch. But I will try to add a little bit of detail here, like I'm adding a bit of roughness on the tree branches. Hopefully I can tidy things up in Photoshop, which is where we're going to go next. So there's my tree branch. Yeah, I think that will do. I'll tell you what, let's add a few little kind of bumps and dots just to add a bit of detail to this tree branch here. We may or may not keep those in the final version, but I'll give it a bit more life. Okay, let's do these big. Ooh, that wasn't very good. Let's do these big koala eyes. And we'll do some big reflections in his eyes too, to keep him cute. Because I imagine that people who are liking koalas like them because they think that they're cute. So we try and keep him as cute as possible with some big watery looking eyes. And I'm going to knock this down a little bit so I can get a better handle on things. So no. How's that? A little bit square-headed, but not too bad. And then maybe do something like that for the nose. Does that look like a koala? That's not too bad, is it? I think koalas don't really have big eyes, but I want to keep mine nice and cute. That's a bit lazy on the ear. There we go. Not too bad. Again, obviously, if I had a bit more time, we could do a bit better on this, but it's okay. It's okay. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And do these little legs. Whoops. That wasn't good. That's okay. That's passable. Yeah, that's okay. Maybe let's give him a little belly so we can tell you what I'm not happy with, and that's that foot. What was wrong with that foot? Yeah, that's better. It's gone all quiet. Okay, let's see here. Consoftra says thanks. Sue says Procreate. Yes, this is Procreate. Sarah Dillard, what brush are you using? This is the dry ink brush, which is just a default brush in Procreate. I'm not happy with that bit of the foot there. It's funny how I can see the sketch here on my StreamYard, and it's a good way of looking at it. Okay. Kevin said, with that Santa beard joke, just like the trash panda raccoon in the garbage can, could you do bar Santa with an illustration of a guy at a bar with beer foam all over his face? You certainly could, Kevin. Teresa says, hello, everyone. Better late than never. Yes, good to have you here, Teresa. Okay, so there's my rough and ready koala. I don't think he's going to win any prizes for illustration, but he does the job, I think. I don't know if koalas have little tails as well, so I'm a bit hesitant to draw one on him. I'm just wondering whether I need to kind of draw this circle or whether I should do that in Photoshop. I think we'll do it in Photoshop. So if we knock out the sketch, and this is what we're left with, I think in order to just kind of boost this a little bit, I'm just going to go around and just add a little bit of thickness to the stroke. Obviously, this is going to be pretty scrappy, but this might just help it stand out a little bit on the shirt. Because sometimes if your strokes are a bit thin, you're just going to kind of lose a bit of the power of the shirt, especially if you're doing it on a kind of dark shirt, which I think we're going to do. I think we're going to go navy, so let's see here. Again, I'm not really spending any time on this. I'm just quickly trying to run around the stroke again, just to make sure it's a little bit thick enough to do what we need it to do. Okay. That's probably going to do the job. And okay, right. Let's get this exported. Let's just export it as a PNG. That'll be fine. And Shop. Sorry. Coming. I'm going to head over to Photoshop actually first. And while Photoshop's on, I will download this sketch. So I've just uploaded it to Drive as a PNG. I'm then going to drag the PNG over into Photoshop. And keep seem to be dropping out. Sorry, I'm just going to close a few things in case they are causing issues. Make sure all my internet is doing internety things. Okay, hopefully we're good. On and off, on and off. Let's stick with it for now. Hopefully we'll stabilize shortly. Okay, so I have here my koala in Photoshop. What I'm going to do is, what am I going to do first? Let's have a think. I think what I'll do is get rid of this white so that we're just left with our line work. So I'm going to cut that out. There we go. Now I'm looking at it on a black background, so that's no good. Sue said, nice haircut, Michael. Thank you for that, Sue. And Scott says, good hair. Thank you. Chris says, turn it off and on again. Yeah, I think hopefully we'll be okay now. Okay, here's our koala. I'm just going to increase him in size a little bit. Hopefully that shouldn't cause any issues with our quality. So I'm going to do a circle because that's pretty central to my concept. Is a circle. Oops, don't need to. Is a circle, and that is going to go behind our koala. Yeah, that looks good. And so I'm thinking navy for the shirt, and so let's make this background navy, and then we kind of know what we're working with. So a navy background. I'm going to make the line work navy as well. So let's just do a color overlay on this and make it navy and do that. What do I want to do? Screen? Yeah, screen it. There we go. So already coming together. Franicia, have you ever had trouble uploading PNG files made with Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop for Amazon merch? No, I can't say I have. Franicia. I remember Ken Reel had issues when he was exporting, not from Photoshop or Illustrator, but I can't remember what software program it was. But the problem was that his canvas was a pixel too wide, and he kept uploading his artwork again and again and getting an error, and he couldn't realize couldn't figure out what the problem was and was getting very frustrated. But it was literally that. It was just his canvas was a little bit too big. So double check things like that just in case. Okay, so here's our koala. Looking very nice. I think we need to kind of give him some color. So what color are koalas? I think they're kind of gray, aren't they? So let's do a kind of gray color for our koala. I'm just going to probably do, yeah, something like that. Maybe a little bit of purple in there. I'm just going to kind of color block this. Hopefully this will work. and they have white ears and white bellies. So I've not done a good job of making complete space units on these ears. So let me just tighten those up a little bit. It's a bit sloppy, but we don't have time for prize winning here. Okay, that's nice. I like it. Now the idea was to make this the same color as the background, the log. So, let's have a think. What's the best way to do this? I think it might be what I'm going to do is just illustrate this in, yeah, that'll do. So if I just fill this in really quickly, usually I would do this with the iPad and use something like, what's that app called? Where you can use your iPad in Photoshop. Or there's like Sidecar, I think, for the Mac. Astropad is what I'm trying to say. Astropad, I usually would do this, but as I don't have my iPad hooked up right now, I'm going to do this very sloppily, just using my mouse, which is a little bit amateurish, but it seems to do the job. And okay, so now what I'm going to do is, because I want to make this navy, I'm going to cut out, don't worry about the color at the moment. The color is not going to stay red. I'm going to cut out all these little details, and just so we can throw them back in, because the log's going to be navy. If we make it navy now, we won't see these little details. Oops, and we want to get them all. Okay, so if we cut those, paste them back in, then we can make this log, oops, we can make this log navy. And we can make our highlights maybe same color as Mr. Koala. Okay, something like that. Now, we need to do something with this background color to make it pop. Would a green work here? Maybe something like that. I'm going to go with that for now. Looking at the design, I think it definitely needs some more detail adding to the koala. We could do some fur and kind of give it some shadow and shading and stuff to really make it pop. But we are, you know, I don't know, we're close to there. Let's see here. Consoftra. Like here, you had created a digital sketch on iPad and opened it in Photoshop, but would I be able to get the same effect if I scan a hand-drawn sketch and open it in Photoshop? Yeah, pretty much. I worked for a long time just with a scanner and Photoshop, so I would scan in my work. I would take a piece of paper and scan it in, and then I would transform it in Photoshop. I would use the levels controls to get the artwork nice and black, solid black, and then I would basically do what you've seen me do here. Some people are saying color for the circle, gray or light brown, maybe. I think that might be. I'm actually maybe like a light blue. It's probably going to clash a little bit, is it? Actually, I'm kind of liking that. Maybe let's roll with that one. Very gray brown. Oh, that might be for the color of the koala. So yeah. I think I've made mine a little bit more purple, but I think that's okay. Eileen says this is great and so quick. Raymond says good to get here. Loving it. Scott says Aussie born. Kevin says who's the guy that you recommend for tablet reviews? Brad Cowboy. Brad Cowboy on YouTube, very good for equipment reviews. Barbara, why did you switch to Photoshop? Why can't you color it on Procreate? I am not that adept at Procreate. I've not really spent that much time in it. I find it handy for sketching, but I prefer, and I'm more familiar with Photoshop when it comes to doing stuff with the art that I've created. Retro sunset, says Neil. Yes, I'm sure that will happen. Heather, is there a reason you choose Photoshop over Illustrator? Does it matter? It doesn't. I think it's more comes down to preference, Heather. You can definitely do everything you want to do with either Photoshop or Illustrator. Again, I'm just less savvy with Photoshop. Sorry, less savvy with Illustrator. Obviously, Illustrator is a vector program, so it does have advantages in those spaces. But I think you should use whatever you are most comfortable with, and I'm most comfortable with Photoshop. So yeah, hope that helps. Okay, so next up, what we're going to do is we are going to add our text to make the design complete. So what I'm doing here is just getting a circle roughly in the space where I want to do my text. So we're going to go for the old faithful approach of circular text, top and bottom path. That should get us where we want to be. So here's my text. Let's bring this to the foreground. So my text on a path, all I've done is create a circle in Photoshop, and then I've hovered my text tool over it in order to create the path. Shouldn't say bearing, it should say barely. So I think what I'm going to go for is like barely at the top and then hanging on across the bottom. And now font choices. Usually what I would do is simply fire up my fonts and just kind of roll through them and see what's going to work well. And I do have obviously some kind of old faithfuls that I would always gravitate towards. I'm thinking what we're going for is a kind of cutesy, something that's going to appeal to, I guess, like young girls who are into koalas and stuff. I imagine that's the main demographic for koala designs. I don't imagine there's many 50-year-old guys who are crazy about koalas. Oh, that's a nice. Which one was that? That's kind of cute. H-man. That could work. So let's kind of create that. We can probably lose our circle now. And then we can copy this path. There are probably better ways to do this, and you can use templates, of course, which would be a quicker way to not have to create your duplicate text paths every single time. But I think this is not taking us too long, and I just need to, make some tweaks on our text. Oh, what happened there? Here we go. Okay. So as you can see, what's happened with the font on the top curve, you get this effect where it kind of spaces out, and then on the bottom, when you're curving on the inside of the circle, the letters are a little bit packed too tightly together. So I'm just going to go into the letter spacing tool here and space them out a little bit. Yeah, something like that. I think maybe our fonts are a little bit big. We might want to reposition everything. Whoops. I think if you think this design works, which I think it's getting there. I think what I'd like to do to really complete it would be We could add in some detail in the background as well. We could maybe make this, I don't know, we could do some little clouds in the background, or we could do some little trees or leaves. Kevin says maybe a leaf or two. I was definitely thinking something like that. Adding a bit of green in there might be nice. And adding some detail on our koala. So I think we could definitely do with just getting the pen tool and just drawing some fur and some shading and stuff like that. I think that would take it up a level or two. Let's see what other comments we've got coming in here. Flanagan, will Illustrator work to convert photos to a sketch? Kind of, but not a kind of sketch like what we're talking about. Illustrator can take a photo and convert it to a vector using like the live trace tool, but it doesn't do a good job of truly, of creating a sketch. It's not going to create a sketch like this, of course, from scratch. So yeah, but if you have a sketch, you can scan it in, and Illustrator will vectorize the line work for you. That's kind of often what I would do. Sue, yes, it might be good with a retro sunset color for background. Animatris, do you apply texture like grungy look on some of your designs? Yes, that would usually be a kind of final touch that I would do if I felt that it needed a grungy look or a little bit of weathered effect, which you could do for this. I mean, you could see this as kind of almost a retro-y look. And if we change the font, actually, like there's a font I often use called Keep On Trucking, which is a nice, I think you'll see it used quite a lot on Redbubble stickers and stuff. It's a cool kind of 70s style font. So you can imagine this, if we make a little couple of changes like that, if we added a bit of a weathered, gradient effect over the top, just to kind of make it look like it was an old weathered t-shirt, then that could be a nice effect just to push it. But I think this is a nice little concept. I think it works pretty well. Let's see what other comments we've got here. Barely, yes, thank you, Carol. I think I misspelled that first time. Kern that Y. Yeah, it looks okay now. I think I've just changed it on you. We could also do, even to complete the retro approach, we could just get rid of the G there, barely hanging on. Something like that. Kind of tempted just to put a few little, wonder if I could do some badly drawn clouds here. Or if I just draw a few lines. And then bring in a big can just kind of make out some little clouds in the background. So it kind of makes him look like he's really high up. I don't know, something like that. Just gives it a bit more depth, and especially if we can kind of overlap the elements here so it looks like everything's working together. That would be a nice little touch as well. Carol says, yeah, that would help. Sheila says, I can't believe how much I've learned in a few short minutes. Thank you. You're welcome, Sheila. Raymond says the Y in nearly could move towards the L. I think I've changed the font now. So, Franicia, can you show how you weather your T-shirts? And Sheila says, I love the way you draw the clouds. Thank you, Sheila. Franicia, what I've got is I don't think I've got them on this computer, but I have a few, like I've collected over the years, just kind of vector, what would you call them? Vector weather defects, and they are just distressed weather textures that I've got in Illustrator. I would just go and copy them straight from Illustrator, paste them onto my artwork here, and simply make them the same color as the background, so navy, and they would simply cut out all the elements there. That would be my kind of lazy man's approach. If you really have a bit more time and you want to do it, you want to really make it professional, then what you can do is get some of those weathered textures, and as well as knocking out some of the elements from your artwork, you can also add in a couple of little subtle splatters in some of the colors. So for example, a bit like here, we've got the little dots on the branch, a bit like that, but you would have them as very kind of subtle texture effects. And that just almost gives the effect of a screen print that's gone a bit awry. In fact, I don't know whether it's kind of on this t-shirt I'm wearing, but can't really see it. But there's quite a lot of very subtle texture going on here. So they've not just knocked out some of the artwork, they've also added in kind of little background splatters and stuff like that, and that just kind of takes it up another level. So that's another way to do it. Absolutely. Scott says clouds really pop. David says, have you purchased distressed weather textures? So yeah, I don't have those in Procreate, but I do have them kind of Illustrator wise, and then I would bring them over to Photoshop from Illustrator, just use them that way. Sue says, why not group it and use the inverse mask? Absolutely, you can do that. When I say that I'm more proficient in Photoshop, what I don't mean is that I am using Photoshop to the best of my ability. I'm kind of a self-taught Photoshop guy, which means I MacGyver a lot of things. I know there's better ways, more efficient ways of doing things, but I don't do them that way myself. But you should definitely do the most effective way. And if you learn to use masks and layer masks and stuff like that, like Neil is saying here, make a group, add the texture to the layer mask, that will produce great results as well. But I find that as long as you're working at a sufficiently high resolution, as long as you're getting an output that's the right res and that works fine on a t-shirt. Remember, this is a design that's going to be printed on a shirt. So as I'm looking at it now, you probably can't see, but there's a couple of there's quite a few discrepancies in the work. There's issues with, little bits of color. And because I used quite a textured brush, there's a few inconsistencies there. So really what I should have done is maybe vectorized it first before I brought it over, and a few things like that. But to be honest, I wouldn't, even with this, even though it looks kind of sketchy, by the time this is exported as a PNG, and by the time I've knocked out the background and stuff, it will be fine, because if you look at this, is 100% now on my screen, and this is massive. This is huge. So by the time that is, brought down to the kind of size to print on a t-shirt, it's going to be fine. It's a lot of the issues and the inconsistencies are not going to be an issue when you've brought it down to that scale. So as long as you're working in a sufficiently high scale, I wouldn't be too obsessed about stuff. I would recommend, of course, that if you are just learning Photoshop, that you follow the rules and you use the best tools, and things that don't, like Sue says here, things that don't impact upon your work. So you're using what's the word? I can't remember the word, but anyway, you're not affecting the original of your art, so you're always able to go back and change things and stuff like that. Thaddeus says the wings are too small. Don't know whether that's a joke or not. Sheila, their ears, not wings. Yes, they are ears. I don't know how you make those out to be wings. Vivian, what was the original canvas size in Procreate? It was 4,500 by 5,400. The canvas size of that I use for Merch by Amazon, that you have to use for Merch by Amazon. Sheila says big koala is. Wings would be cute. Yes, they would. I'm not sure if that, I think it would confuse things quite a bit. So yeah, there is our design, barely hanging on for a koala. I think it's a nice little concept. I thought we'd have time to do another design, but there's no way we're going to be able to do that based on the time we have left. So why don't I take your questions for the last 10 minutes? Anything you want to ask me, whether it's about designing, whether it's about prints on demand, or art licensing, anything about making money from your art online, I'll be happy to take those questions for the last 10 minutes of our stream here. And I'll keep our big-eared koala in the background while we do so. I think it's cute. I think there's ways we could improve it, but I like the design. I kind of like the 70s almost approach. I think if we did do a bit of vintage weathering on the design, I think that could make it pop. And I probably would want to play around with the colors a bit more. I think what you see here and why this works is we've only got 3 colors. We've got the white, we've got the blue, and we've got the gray purple. And we've printed that on a navy shirt. So remember, navy is not a color that we've used in this design. That's just going to be the color of the t-shirt. So we've used only three colors. We've kept it very limited. We do not have anything complicated going on. And that means we've got a nice, simple design that's going to be cheap to print if we were to screen print it. And it's going to look nice and coherent on a design. Oftentimes, people are throwing too many colors on a shirt, and that's going to confuse things. Okay. Alpha says, excellent design. Lance says, where do you place the text above the design, below the design, or split the text? Does it depend on the size of the graphic or the length of the text? Yes, it depends on all those things. And it depends on the joke and what the joke is. So I think the reason I've split this the way I have, because you could have had barely hanging on or barely hanging on altogether on one line, for example. If there's a pun, so there's a word there that you want to draw attention to, then it often, one of the ways you can do that is by having that word separate from the other words in some way. So one way to do that is to put it above and beneath, like we've done here, because the word barely is our hook, really. That's the joke. That's where the joke is located. That's our main pun. But you could also do other things. You can make the word bigger. You can highlight the word. You can underline the word. You can do some different font or whatever. But often, especially with maybe a pun like this, where someone might read it and not immediately get the joke there because they for whatever reason they don't know how to spell, or they think that's how you spell barely, so they don't get it. Another way to draw attention to it, you could do a little dash, and that would kind of emphasize the pun and draw attention to that. It's up to you, and that you can play around with that. And I don't know if there's really rights or wrongs. It's kind of just feeling your way through. And yeah, in terms of it does depend on the design. It depends on how you can lay things out. I do often hit issues where we've got certain designs or certain puns. They will not be sentences. They maybe just are a couple of words. And in that case, you can't break them up. You can't have them above and below. So it really only makes sense to have them above your graphic or below your graphic. And that doesn't lead to such a nice cohesive design. Like what we've got here works well because it's because we've got text above and below. Everything kind of fits nicely. If we only had text beneath, it wouldn't be quite so nice. So yeah, you have to kind of wrestle with that, and it really depends on your graphic, on your joke, and on how many words you've got in your phrase, and all those kind of issues. I think one issue you will run into if you have phrases that are very, very long with lots of words, you're going to struggle to get them working in a cohesive design. So I like phrases like this, 3 words, 4 words, maybe 5 words, not too much to fit on a design, and you can have them against a graphic without one being too big or whatever, and they can play nicely off one another. So I hope that helps you, Lance. Oh wow, lots of questions coming here. Angie, any ideas why my Amazon merch won't get approved? I applied but never heard back. Sorry, Angie, I do not know. Can't really help with that. Franicia, do you have a preferred area to export your finished PNGs like Dropbox or Google Drive? I just export mine to Google Drive just for ease, but I would recommend you try and save them somewhere where you can come back to them, because often that happens when I'm very much a scrappy kind of get it done guy. I'm not super organized, even though it might look different from the outside. I'm often just kind of like, oh, here's my sketch. I'm quickly putting something together, upload it, drop it on the desktop, drag it over, and then a week or two later, I'll be like, oh, where's that design or where's that graphic? I want to use it again, and I have to go and find it. And so, yeah, I would recommend if you're starting out, then have a folder where you keep all your initial sketches, and then you know where to go, and give them a naming system if you can. Anything like that would work. Okay, Eileen, would you put this on all platforms? Yeah, I don't really see an issue with this design. I think it would work on all platforms. Print on demand platforms, I think Eileen's talking about. Yeah, don't really see why not. Vivian says, can't believe you just knock out a design in under an hour. It does take, obviously, it takes experience to kind of, have the illustration ability to quickly churn something out. By no means am I an excellent illustrator, but I do have enough to kind of look at a concept and know how to translate it. So that's part of it. I did have, what you didn't see, of course, was me reading the email suggestion from Kirby with this idea and then having it stewing in my mind overnight. So it wasn't like I just had a brief and I punched something out within an hour. So that's why I recommend, you keep track of your ideas, you have a list of ideas, and you regularly kind of just take a look at that. Because I have a list right now of hundreds of potential ideas. Some of them have been stewing for over a year, and I think they're really good, but I'm still not quite ready to complete them, or for whatever reason I haven't turned them into a design yet. So that helps, because even just having a day where you've got a concept in the back of your mind and you're just kind of, you can, you're letting your subconscious work on it as well, so that when I come down to sketch it and I just grab a piece of paper and sketch out a koala, and I think he's there. I don't know how well you can see this, but he's just there. So it gives me something to work on. So that's part of it. But yeah, having said that, I do think if you're good at illustration, if you're good at getting the concept down, and if you're proficient in whatever tool you're using, so I'm using Photoshop, again, not brilliantly, but at least I know how to use it. If you have a software that you can use proficiently, then you can churn out designs in an hour or less to a quality like this. Most people can churn out designs that are text-based or simple. It's the illustration element that usually adds the time and the complexity. So if you can knock that one off, if you can get very good at quickly sketching animals or whatever it is in your style, then that takes a lot of the pressure off. Okay, Eddie, did you put distress and halftone effects on most of your designs? No, certainly not. On a minority of my designs, I would say. It's not a deal breaker. I don't think it's not the kind of thing that the average consumer notices. It's more a professional touch, I think, that is a subconscious thing that maybe people don't notice, but it's a nice extra touch. Scott says, I like it too. It works a treat. With a few more details, it would be amazing. Thank you, Scott. Facebook user says, love it. Adinol says, great font. The font is called Keep On Trucking. Neil, how do you know how close you can go with trademark parody? Well, you don't really, Neil. You never know until you are in court and the judge gives his verdict. Yeah, trademark parody is a very gray area. I have lots of parody designs. Usually what happens is, well, for most of them, they stay up and they're fine. Occasionally you will get takedowns and they get taken down. It's rare that things would ever get past that. But having said that, what you don't want to have is a design that blows up and gets huge, and then you're in trademark issues because it's been so successful that IP owner is going to come sniffing around looking for a piece of that, a cut of that. And that happens occasionally. It's not happened to me, but that can happen. So yeah, I would say you want to be transformative in if you're doing anything that's kind of trademark parody or copyright. Not copyright, but if you're doing anything that's based, a good example is the David Olenek design, Every Now and Then I Fall Apart, with a picture of a taco. Obviously, it's not his line. It's not, he didn't write the song. It's Bonnie Tyler, but he transformed it and he drew his own everything. He transformed it. And I think that's a good example of kind of parody that's legit and that works. That's maybe not trademark parody, but hopefully that kind of helps. Okay. Franesia, can you do some videos on weathering your way, easy and long version? Yeah, maybe do that in the future. Thank you for that suggestion. Facebook user, I've just got Japan. Congratulations. Not sure what to do with it. Well, just put your designs up. That's all I'm doing. Just put your bestsellers up and hope for the best. Sheila, would you only allow it to be sold on a navy shirt, or would you make other colors available? Typically with a design like this, where the background is going to play such an important part in the in how the design looks, I would make it available only on colors that worked on. So that would be navy. It's probably going to work on black. It's probably going to work on a dark brown. It might even work on a dark gray or whatever that might be. But you would have to just kind of look at it. So I would play it that way. I would look at how it looks. Look at how it looks. I would upload it, and then I would see, in the live preview, does this work on this color, and I would just pick a few and go for it. But I would usually have a default. I would always design for a default background color. I'd always design like this with a background color on it. And that would be, I think that's really helpful for when you are, then uploading it stuff. Sue, I've just answered that question, Sue. Or yes, I've answered that question. Thank you for it, though, Sue. Frenicia, do you have a rule you like to follow in terms of limiting numbers of words? No, I don't. I wouldn't talk about it in terms of rules. I would just say that I have found that when you have a long phrase, it's very difficult. It becomes more difficult the more words you have to create a nice, cohesive, coherent design. And usually the less words, or certainly between 3 and 4 and 5 words, is going to be where it's a nice kind of, it's pretty easy to turn that into a design. And if you just have 1 or 2 words, then you really only have one option, which is have the text above or have the text below or whatever. So yeah, Vivian, do you recolor it for different t-shirt color? Again, no. I would just, you can do, of course, that's up to you, but I typically would produce a design. I would make a decision about what color background that works best on, and then I would upload it for that. And yeah, that would be the way I do things. The only exception would be if you are attacking maybe some kind of new trend or topic or something, and you want to kind of create as many designs as possible, then you can, of course, we could flip the colors. We could make this on a light background. You'd have to rework the illustration somewhat to make it work. But you can do that if you want. I typically don't, though. I typically have one version of the design, and that's it. And I don't create multiple versions of the same design. Sue, thanks for your last share on email about generating ideas. Now I've got a ton of ideas to execute, and it was exciting. Good, Sue. I'm very happy that that's the case, and you're getting something out of the emails. I am working on some stuff around ideas right now. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to share that in a couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Arthur, how much does one tweak artwork for each product as opposed to letting the platform automate placing single art for all products? It really depends on the platform, Arthur. So, like Redbubble, I find takes an awful lot of tweaking to get it working right. TeePublic is probably my favorite. They do a pretty good job of getting it in the right placement on everything first time. And Merch by Amazon obviously just uses your placement. So yeah, it just depends on the platform. Henry, I think a white stroke around the letters would work. Yeah, could do. I think I like to keep. I don't really like strokes on letters, but of course it depends on your style and your preference. It's subjective, of course. And a mattress. Did you do some checking first for copyright phrases? No, I did not, and I very rarely, if ever, do anything like that. First of all, I think you mean trademark checking rather than copyright checking. What I would occasionally do, and this is less about worrying about any legal issues, it's more that I don't like to create designs that have been created before. So I like to create original stuff. I don't like to create something and then find out that it's already been turned into a design, and for example, it's already a popular design and that kind of thing. So what I would perhaps do is search the phrase. I did do a quick search of the phrase, and I did a search on Google Images, and I didn't see anything for that phrase. Certainly not anything that was like a t-shirt design anyway. So for that, so I did technically do that, yeah. But I don't worry about trademark issues and stuff. By now I kind of know inherently if there are going to be any trademark issues around something, and for something like this, I'm pretty sure there wouldn't be. If there is, okay, whatever. But usually a quick Google search will solve that for you. Franicia, for t-shirt, you've asked about 16 questions, and I have to practice your name every time. For t-shirt designs, do you prefer to fill out the entire space? That's a good question. Yeah, how do you kind of place it? So this is the merch. I think this is the merch canvas, 4500 by 5400 it is. So this is a bit big for the canvas. I would usually shrink this down and whoops, where has that white come from? Is that our Procreate background? I think it is. It is. Let's get rid of that. So I would typically, with a design like this, you want to go kind of chest area. It's probably something like that. Let's get rid of this as well. So yeah, something like that kind of chest area positioning is probably what I would do by default. If you have a design that's either square, so square like that, then I would typically keep it in the chest area. Sorry, this is not very large. I can't really see what I'm doing. So chest area, so here's a square. You would keep it in the chest. And then if it's rectangular like that, so it's wider than it is tall, then I would kind of keep it high up the chest, maybe something like that. And if it's taller than it is wide, like that, then I would fill out the canvas. Usually I would maximize it. You can't really see that, but so if it's taller than it is wide, I would do that. I would kind of fill it out that way. If it's wider than it is tall, I would keep it quite high up the chest. And if it's square, like something like that, then I would keep it kind of that, maybe a bit lower, something like that. But I just kind of feel my way. I don't have like, a template or anything. I just kind of guess, and usually I'm close enough. Kevin, do you think the Far Side comic strips design humor would translate well to a t-shirt? Yes, I do. I do like a bit of Gary Larson. He was one of the first books I bought with my own money was a Gary Larson like anthology. Don't know where it is. I think I have it at home. The Prehistory of the Far Side. So yes, I do like Gary Larson. I think his depending on the joke, I think it doesn't. Taking a cartoon as a certain medium and a t-shirt as a different medium, taking a cartoon and whacking it on a t-shirt doesn't necessarily work. But there are certainly examples and cases and popular t-shirts that are kind of visual gags or cartoony like, and they work. So yeah. Abdusalam, great design. What font are you using? This is Keep On Trucking. Ron, I've been using your spreadsheet template to organize my clutter. Good. Franisia, I'm glad to hear I'm not the only creative with a less than organized method for exporting at times. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you are. Eileen, it's a great design. Love it. Thank you. Fontes, Keep On Trucking. Thank you for that. Graphics tablet. Yes, I'm using my iPad Pro. Thaddeus, Little Bear is so sad. He does look a little bit sad. Mary V, it's been great watching you design this. Now I'll have to learn how to sketch and draw. Absolutely. Barbara, do you have the buyer in mind as you're creating or after it is finished? Yeah, I do roughly have the buyer in mind. I think you've heard me talk about like teenage girl or kind of that kind of thing. And the kind of font I've used here, so the use of a font that I've seen is quite popular on Redbubble, which I think is kind of teenage girl territory. So that's referencing that in a way. But yes, I mean, beyond that, I don't really have, and kind of the color choices, like, I haven't gone black with red, or, I've used colors that are agreeable, I think, to like a teenage girl. I think purples and blues, that would work. You could even push it further and go pink or whatever. But yeah, so I do kind of have a bit of a demographic, but I don't have a clear picture. I've not chosen a specific graphic style to match it with. So hope that helps. Alpha, thanks, Michael. Got to leave for now. No problem. Kevin, amazing design sense. Always inspiring. Thanks, Michael. Thank you. Grey Elephant Club, thank you. Adinal, do you often not use white color for sayings? I thought it would catchy than other color. What do you think of that? I will often use white for the text. We can see what that would look like. Let's just have a quick play with it. It obviously will pop more on a dark shirt to use white. I think it does look nice. It does pop. I think I maybe preferred grey, but but it does work just as well. Again, it's kind of subjective. It's up to you which approach you want to go for. I think both work well. Sheila, thanks. That makes sense about designing for a given color first and then seeing what other colors it works on. Absolutely. Scott, emails are always very good. Thank you. Sue, silly question. Do you use graphics images in the majority of your designs? Lots of people seem to do just text. I use graphics in almost all of my designs. That's, in my opinion, the thing that gives my designs their value, if that makes sense. So if you're doing just text-based designs, which of course will sell very well on print-on-demand platforms, or what I should say is that a lot of the best-selling designs on print-on-demand platforms will be text-based or primarily text. The problem is, of course, that text only is not, you're not creating much value. Anyone can create a text-only design. And if you want to build a design portfolio that has multiple applications that you can use elsewhere, that you can go and license offline, or you can build your own brand around, or you can share on social media and get good responses, then you have to do something more than that, than just text. So that's why that's one of the reasons why I've been successful, I think, is that I've been able to create lots of designs with graphics. Therefore, they have my portfolio has a higher value, has lots of applications beyond just merch by Amazon, for example. So yeah, that's kind of my approach to that. Amy says, thank you. No problem, Amy. Jennifer, do the t-shirt RGB colors settings need to match the ones on the platform? No, in my experience, no. I just use RGB and everything seems to work out fine. Flanagan, thanks. No problem. Thank you for submitting. Joe, thanks for correcting me. Supposed to be trademark, no problem. Abdusalam says he always maximizes the design. Depends on the design, but sure. Vivian, thanks, Michael. No problem. Joe, one more question. Did you do all your designs? Did you start hiring some designers? I did hire designers. That's why I was able to produce thousands of designs in a couple of years. So yes, I had two or three designers that I work with, and I would give them jobs where the illustration was either too time consuming for me, or when I knew they would be more efficient at it than I would be. So yeah, so just depends on the design. Jennifer, on the navy background. Oh, the navy is on the background, so no need to match the exact color. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't worry about matching exact colors on the background. As long as, if it's going to be a dark design, then you know that light colors are going to work. If it's going to be a light background, then you know that dark colors are going to work. It doesn't need to be the exact navy or anything like that. Rusty says, thanks, Abdusalam. It's not about the t-shirt, but if you want to add this on iPhone case, which background color would you use? I would use the same background color. If I make a decision that this design works best on navy, then I'm going to follow that through for everything else down the line. So hope that helps. Franisha, thank you, Franisha. Franisha, how many different brands do you upload? How many different brands do you think you upload with? Do you have a general test one? By brands, I guess you're meaning platforms like Merch by Amazon, Redbubble, TeePublic, and all that. How many? Those would be the main ones: Redbubble, TeePublic, Merch by Amazon, Etsy, and then others down the line. Those would be the main ones. Yeah. Merch by Amazon would usually come first. I don't really have a test one. As long as it works, then it works. It will work everywhere. Aldrin says, nice design, thank you. Ray says, thanks. And Franisha says, thank you for being generous with your time. Please write another book. Thank you, Franisha. I am working on a project right now, which hopefully in a couple of weeks I'll be able to share more about. Joe says, thanks, more power, thank you. And D. Salam says, all my designs are illustrations. Maybe I need to add some text. Scott says, I think Franisha means brands on merch. Okay, sorry, Franisha. Yeah, so brands, I would typically use a different brand for each design. So I would just try and maximize my keywords there with the brands, unless I have a particular reason for keeping everything under one brand. So yeah, hope that helps you there. And Eileen says, thank you. Okay, we have gone over by about 15 minutes already. Thank you, Reza. And so we'll have to cut it off there for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope putting together this design was helpful. Do sign up if you haven't already at michaelessek.com/live. There are goodies there to be had, downloads and slides and some very useful stuff to help you create better designs, come up with better ideas, and really do stuff that other people are not doing. I don't really have anything else to announce, I don't think. Barbara says, great, as always. See you next week. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, we should have a live next week. Do keep an eye on your inboxes in the next week or two. There is a big announcement coming, something I'm working on. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, I think we'll quit it there. Scott says thanks. Lance says thanks. Arthur says thank you. Ray says, where can I get the trucking font? Not sure. I would just do a search for Keep On Trucking. I think it's okay for commercial use, but you might want to check that. Mutant says thanks. Neil says cheers. Ev says thank you. Thank you very much. We will be back next week, same time next week. Keep an eye on your inboxes in the meantime, and I think we will quit it up there, but a couple of questions keep coming in. Thanks, Abdusalam. Scott says research. Yeah. Eileen says, would you consider a t-shirt design for your followers? You mean, someone asked me that in my Facebook group, I think, today. Would I produce a t-shirt that you could buy? Is that what you mean? I think we will have to do that. Certainly before Christmas, I'll produce something that you can buy if you want to, with my logo on it or something like that. Anas, can I use my design from my delete account? Don't understand the question, Anas, sorry. And Facebook user says, great, thanks. Thanks, great info. Great, thanks, info. Ben says, thanks, Michael. Thank you to you. Eileen says to buy. Yes, I think that is what she meant then. So yeah, I'll work on some kind of design that we can, maybe we'll design it live and then I'll make it available for sale and you can all buy it for Christmas. How's that? Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your questions. Hope this helped you. Keep an eye on your inbox and I'll see you all next week, if not before. All right. Thank you, guys. See you later.